Hello, everyone. My name is JD Calderon, and this is Indy Comics Explained. And yet again, I brought another fantastic group of independent comic book creators. So please hit like, hit subscribe, share out the video, let everybody know we're here. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce my co-host and just the one host again tonight because my regular co-host, Mr. Rosario, is a bum and he's not showing up today. No, he has some family things that to take care of. It. No, he's taking care of that. And he's still a good guy in my book sometimes. But yeah, here we go.
I don't know. I think he's being shady because I'm on here. I only get to be on here with him once or twice, and then he ghosts me. I don't know what the deal is, but I'm C. Michael Lanning, independent artist, also a show and head panelist over on Dispatches from Outside the Box, where we scour the corners of geekdom to inspire you to create outside the box, and also doing the new anchor thing on Indie Rush to let everybody know about independent campaigns, comics, and new websites showcasing indie comics. So,
Cool. Larry, you there?
Barely. I was actually posting the link to the show on my Facebook. I'm LP Larry. I do the comic book Niobe. What's up?
Cool. Jeff, how you doing, man? Please introduce
Good. How's it going? Yeah, absolutely. First off, Jeff Zanelotti. I'm the creator, writer, artist, and letterer of Accidental Renegades. Big fan of the show. Happy to be here.
Oh, thank you. Sean, how are you, sir? Please introduce yourself.
Thanks for having me on, JD. I'm Sean Terry. I'm the lead writer for Intelligent Comics.
Nice. All right, cool. Now we have another guest, but he's having some tech issues. Mr. Mark Mazz, who's been on the show before. I don't know what's going on, sir. You know, spinning wheel of death. That's your title for today.
Call him the swirl.
The swirl. There you go. All right. So guys, let's it's funny. I got a question that's a bit of a bummer, but I think it's an important, relevant question. It's something we all go through, right? Something we've all been through, right? So as independent publishers, independent creators, right? What's the biggest mistake you've ever made in comics? But what was the takeaway you got from that? What was the positive you got from that? All right. So let's start at the bottom. Let's start with Mr. Jeff.
Okay. Well, I've kind of answered this question before in other conversations, but probably the biggest mistake that I made in comics was waiting so damn long to do it. I always made excuses. I wasn't ready. I wasn't good enough. It wasn't the right time. There was too much going on. Then the pandemic hit. Like everyone else, I had nothing but free time, and I had a lot of frustration. I kind of took that frustration, I put it into my art, and was able to create a one-shot that I got out in Free Comic Book Day 2021 into about 5 stores here on Long Island. And it only happened because I started. So the biggest mistake that I made was making excuses for why it wasn't the right time. And the easiest way to overcome that, and the advice that I'll give to everyone, is you just got to sit down and start doing it. And once I overcame it and did that, I had some success and kind of took it to transition to the book I'm working on now.
All right, cool. Sean, what do you
Yeah,
think?
honestly, I think the biggest mistake would be the same as Jeff's. Just waiting in too long in general to get started, and then also kind of underestimating everything that would be involved. The creator now really has to be willing to do it all and to show their face everywhere. So I think we all say to ourselves, if we could have done this 5 years ago, as opposed to the day we did start, you'd have that much more lead time. So that's good advice for anyone.
All right, cool. Mr. Larry, what do you got?
Too many variants. That's what I got. I
That
got
too.
14 variant covers on this current Kickstarter, and I'll tell you, I mean, I love all the guys and all the artists, but it's a little overkill. Like, to be honest, right? It's a little overkill, and we could probably do equally as good with maybe 7 or 8 of the variants, and even to some people that sounds like a lot, but I think the next Kickstarter we're cutting back a little bit.
Yeah, I actually, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think like that threshold is around 7 or 8?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it depends on the type of book you do. Where we do sort of like the bad girl comic books, people like the sexy variants. They like options to choose from. They like some of the the bigger names that sometimes we can land, and so it's a collector's aspect to it more than it is a reader's aspect when it comes to the variants. If someone just wants to read the book, cover A is right there, nice, good, cheap entry point. But then, when we get into like the Keith Garveys, the Paul Greens, so on and so forth, we ask a couple extra bucks for those. But I mean, you'll see when we take a look, brother, how it was like it went a little overkill.
Gotcha. All right. Sounds good. Mr. Lanning.
Believing somebody who says that they are a Marvel editor and believing that means something. You kind of somebody comes to you and they might have been a Marvel editor and name. You'll be surprised how many people have worked for Marvel, and believe and trusting that they know what they're doing, and coming to find out that maybe they don't. Maybe that's why they don't work as a Marvel editor anymore.
That's Mr. Tom Hutchinson there in the chat of Big Dog Inc.
Yeah, and he knows these guys. What's up, Tom? How you been? All right, cool. It's funny. I wrote this question down, and I barely gave it any thought. But
no,
it's hilarious, right? So sometimes I do that. But I think, damn. I got two things, right? There was one time in 2008, I had made one of these. Well, I made this. I made that guy. Right? So that's a vinyl figure of one of my characters from my comic, Tall Tales, right? Got 1,200 of them produced. They're great. They look fantastic, right? They cost me, what a nice car would cost,
wow.
today. And the thing is I got them, and the economy literally tanked 2 weeks after.
Oh man!
So I still got a basement full of these suckers. I've sold a lot of them, but I still have at least half the run. So so I'm still selling them. They look great though. I mean, we did different colorways of them. Like so, like this one has blood on it. I got some without blood. I got him where he's just all black and white. And I have like the full color ones. I have them glow in the dark, and I did all that stuff. So that was my big error. And the thing is I did 2 years of research before I put it out. And my distributor said if I had these last year, I would have sold out.
Oh, wow.
Like, yeah, I was just like, just brutal. But, things happen, right? The other mistake I made was when I started in this business. I started in 92. I was out of high school. I hooked up with a bunch of friends from art and design, and we started. And one thing I did was myself and Daphne, that's my wife, it's how I met her, we kept moving ahead. But the other guys, they moved on. I had like 4 or 5 different artists. And I think that was my mistake, was that I allowed them to not do as much in the business as they should have, because they were really talented guys. And I hooked up and I met up with one of them yesterday, Matt, and hopefully he's talking about like he has a big regret that in the last 20 years he hasn't done as much artwork, as he should have, and we worked together professionally. We did Tenchi Muyu, we did La Blue Girl, we did Demon Beast Invasion, we did all these books together, the guy was uber talented, but it was just like life gets in the way. And I tell everyone, if you're an artist or any creator, try to put in an hour a day, do something creative, try to do at least 1 page a week, because it's like I told my friend, I said, look, we spoke 5 years ago, and I was in a bad place 5 years ago. And I had asked him to do some stuff for me, and I gave him a 2-page script. It was the equivalent of 6 pages in one cover, and I have yet to get it from him. It's been 5 years, and I'd be like, dude, if you had just done 1 page a week, not even for me, for yourself, you'd have had 250 pages worth of material today. You know, that's 2 graphic novels. You know, think about it. The amount of time we spend playing video games, watching shitty TV, you know, anything. We all waste time, right? Watching. I mean, you know, I'm watching some TV shows now. Are they worth watching? Maybe they are, maybe they aren't.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
You find out later on when it's like, man, I shouldn't have watched that.
Exactly. Right. So they're like, what?
Sometimes it's good to be a bit of an entertainment snob, right? Because you
Right.
don't have unlimited time. So
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe if we're a little more choosy in what you pick.
Mhm. Yeah.
for me, like especially since a lot of my day job is like working from home because I'm a realtor. So if I'm not out showing somebody, I'm either writing up a contract or I'm doing something. So there's certain things to where, you know, I'll have anything on in the background because I'm not really watching it, and who knows if I'm listening even. But you know, if there's something I want to watch, then fine. That's with the wife. That's late night. That's priority. That's a good show. Right?
Mhm.
Shitty shows can be on, you know, when you're vacuuming for all that matters, because it doesn't
Right.
matter if you hear them, they're shitty, right? So
Exactly.
Right.
Or even if it's an older movie, like sometimes I'll put on Predator in the background, right, and just let it play while I'm doing something else. It doesn't matter because I've already seen it 15 times.
Yeah,
It's like, you know,
I do the same thing. If it's a show I really like, I'll put it on just on loop. One, because
Right.
I know what's going to happen, and also I want to keep the algorithm up to know that show is popular. So like, I must have had like, you know, Community or you know, Arcane or something just playing on constant loop in the background.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not even in the same room, but it's just there. And it's kind of funny. You were talking about the you know, staying on schedule. I was listening to someone, and they did the math and said, you know, based on the average number of panels in a regular comic book, if you set yourself to do a panel a day, just average a panel a day, within a year you'll have a complete book. So like that, you know, if you talk about like a page, sometimes that can be a little daunting, but a panel, I mean, you know, depending on how easy the panel is, you can crack that out in a you know, a half hour, you know, depending on what goes into it. And then you have your time to do the big splashes and everything else. But a panel a day, you know, I find putting things in a manageable bites is the easiest way to keep from getting intimidated by it.
Oh yeah, kind of like that whole 10-second rule. You could take anything for 10 seconds
Yeah,
and then you start
exactly.
over again. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
it's
Mark?
true too on the writer side, honestly, because not every day are you just in that creative mode to where you're just gonna open a Word document and you're gonna unleash power on the paper. But could you be editing? Could you be passing over things? Could you be organizing? Could you be doing something to where maybe tomorrow you'll have more time or be more in that zone to do it? So there's always something you can do in a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And Sean, I think you make a good point too. I mean, you know, you're a real estate agent. I'm a school teacher. So I know on the calendar what days I'm going to be off, and I can kind of work around that. You know, I would imagine in a job where you don't have that predictability, someone wants to see a house, you know, whatever you else had planned going on that day, that may have to take a back seat. So I always accept the fact that my, you know, very strict schedule at work frees me up a lot of times to be able to schedule to do some creative stuff. And not everyone has that ability.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like I said, for myself, I would set aside that hour a day just to do the creative stuff, whether it be writing, editing, or lettering. You know what I mean? I do all of those. So it's just like, you know, you got to make that time. And I just tell everybody, I just suggest it. Try to get that hour in every day. Write 5 pages a week in a month. We're in a comic. Exactly. There you go. You know, and I mean, and that's the secret too. Is you got to keep pushing forward. You know, and I tell everyone, it's just like, don't just let yourself get into that drudgery of where you're just going to work every day. Because in fact, I mean, I don't have children. I don't know about you guys. I know Mr. Lanning has like 15 of them.
Give or take. Yeah.
You know, you don't want to be that person where you're living to work, right? I work to live. You know, I don't work. I'm not living to work. You know, I'm like, you know, I believe more in the European is like, you know, I'm working so I can live.
Right.
So that's how I look at it. And then Mr. Lanning, you're up, sir.
Okay. Well, let's see. Kind of tail end that. So, what have you taken away from how you know we're told as far as like drawing a page, you have to do a page a day or whatever the case is. What, you know, the ideal mainstream thought process on writing comics or drawing comics. Have you found yourself being able to break away from that idea? Like, for instance, it's a page, you got to draw a page a day to meet the quota. You don't necessarily have to do that with an indie comic. Have you found yourself being able to break away from that idea where you do it to take your time?
Sean, you're up.
So I'm never the one drawing. Bad question for me. Maybe no, I'm kidding. But as far as on the writing side goes, honestly, I think there's days where you're just more into it than you otherwise might be. A good example is, for me, I think a way of kind of breaking it is kind of working on unplanned time. Like, you could be watching something and you could have an idea for something that might fit your series or something you want to do down the road. I'd encourage everybody to just kind of write that down and to open up a laptop and to get something going, because next thing you know, you're writing something for an hour and you had no intention of writing something before that happened, right? But because you had a thought, you wanted to capture it, that kind of a thing. So for me, it's kind of like more starts and fits than anything. I'm really hot or I'm really cold, I guess you could say. I always like to write when inspired, I guess.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
That's cool.
I mean,
Larry,
it kind of gives you that chance to do that. So,
Larry, what are your thoughts?
Say the question again.
basically, have you been able to break away from the normal idea of how you should get a comic book done based on mainstream like Marvel and DC writing or art or drawing?
That's out of my control. Because just simply being the writer, that's one of the more, easier jobs. I mean, I could write a comic book, like Tom said, in the chat, right? If you do 4 or 5 pages in a week, hell, in a month, you got yourself a comic, right? Generally for me, it takes a couple of weeks and then, put it away for a few days, look at it again, refine it. But it's the art that you end up waiting on. And so that depends on the speed of the artist, how fast you can produce books, right? I've seen art like right now, our current artist is pretty good. He's giving me a couple of pages every week and we're moving right along. But I've also worked with artists who sort of, dragged their feet and it took forever. And so, Marvel has, production where they pump out a book every month or so. But the reason why they're able to do that, for one, is they got a couple different teams working on their books. And two is they often have those books done 6 months well in advance,
Right.
so that you can keep up with the pace. And it's just a little hard for guys like us to be able to do that. Unless if you're an artist yourself, then you got the job half beaten right there.
Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm kind of in an unusual boat because I'm the writer and the artist of my book. So I find that I do have a little bit of flexibility. If I'm just not, feeling a particular side of the job that day, I can do something else. So, I've got the script pretty much written out. And as I go through the panels, I may go back and change the script a little bit or refine some of the dialogue if I'm feeling creative. If for whatever reason I'm just in a funk that day, there's always inks, there's always tones, there's always, rearranging panels. There's always something that is a little bit more autopilot and less creative. So I do have that flexibility. One thing I have definitely found though is, and kind of to answer your question, you do get a little bit more flexibility in the indie comic world because you're not necessarily set on an exact schedule. But the first book I did was designed to get into the stores for Free Comic Book Day. And that is a date on the calendar that is not moving no matter whether or not I'm ready or not.
Right.
And what that taught me was how to set, follow, and stay on a schedule. And that was pretty invaluable for me because I knew what day I needed to get it back from the printers. And then I just kind of backwards planned off that day. And that allowed me to figure out, okay, I need this number of pages needs to get by this day. I had a calendar where I was Xing off pencils, inks, colors, whatever I needed to. And it allowed me to kind of stay on schedule. With the current book, it still has to be on schedule. It's just that your schedule is a lot longer. I mean, a crowdfunded book, typically you have a lot more breathing room than you do, I would imagine, if you're putting something out on an extremely strict schedule. But that doesn't make it any less important to stay on schedule.
Yeah. I mean, for myself, I don't keep to a schedule like that. Like I said, I do my hour a day, and then I try to sometimes an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours. It just depends how much free time I have. I just take it and I just use it as best as I can. And what I've done is I've done it so long, I have a stockpile of material. So I've been working with a lot of artists. I mean, like I said, I at this point I have enough material for probably like 14 campaigns, in a row. Like I could just do them one after the other, boom, 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 just right after it. It's nuts, And the thing is it doesn't like I'm just getting more work in. Whatever money I get, I feed it right back to the artist. So I just keep getting more work in. So by the time I hit that 14, I'll have another 15 ready to go right after. So it's a little bonkers, but that's how I keep my schedule. But I don't keep like a strict schedule. Like my wife Daphne, she has her Kickstarters planned out to 2025. And I mean, I could probably do the same, but I'm like, I like to be a little bit more spontaneous. I like to, I'm like, Mr. Lanning's wife. She complains about me because I was like, I'll just build up a campaign and I'll just drop it. I won't, put up the advancement.
I'll just show up one day. Oh, hey, JD's got a campaign. What do you know?
They tell you should do the 30-day advance thing where, you put up the sign up pledges and stuff. And I'm like, look, if I'm going to do a 60-day campaign, because that's what you're asking me to do. You're asking me to take 30 days to build up all these pledges, and then another 30 days to run the campaign. And then I have to like go out and really push the signups, and then I have to push the campaign. It's the same thing to me. I just might as well do a 60-day campaign at that point, right?
Yeah. So I hear about it. It's true. It's true.
So I don't know. It's a different philosophy. It works differently for different people. I'm just like, yeah, whatever. I got a lot of stuff. I usually we're just wrapped up a campaign. Well, I'm getting the materials back from the printer. Once that's done, ship it, and then give it another week so everybody get their stuff, and then the following week I drop a new one. So that's typically how it works. So yeah. So as far as, but when I worked professionally, that the thing you were saying, Sean, where you say you have to take your time to get motivated, or to have that doesn't exist. You have to just when you got somebody paying you, you just have to perform.
Yeah,
they're like monkey dance, monkey dance. You better start dancing for that part.
Well, so it's true. A couple of times, like just finding out late about like a writing competition, like a talent hunt or something. I've had like a week to do a full script from scratch, the subject matter I didn't know. So I've had that kind of ability to work under pressure like that. But like you say, it's easy to have 14, 15 scripts in the bag, and you can write a lot faster than somebody can draw. So when you do have I guess a lot of issues planned out in advance, then you can kind of write when you really are into it and wanting to, more so than, like you say, freelance and there's a deadline. But
right. Yeah. I mean, that was the only difference, is when I was working freelance, it was just like they were like, get it done, and we want it now. So that was the only crazy thing. But it was very interesting doing it. Travis says you can do campaigns any way you want, JD. Don't let people tell you how to run your life. That's it. Right there.
That's true. However, you get what you put into it too, so you got to take into consideration. If you want more, you got to put in more too. So
listen, I'm not saying I'm putting any less love in it. I love it all. So yeah. All right.
Love gets you so far. Work can get you a little further. That's the thing.
True. All right. Well, Mr. Lanning, answer your own question.
Okay. I used to be weighed down by that idea of I can't get a page a day. I have a 40-hour a week job. So, but
excuses.
Oh wow, ouch. But yeah, it used to weigh me down, but I tried to break free from it, because here's the deal. Because I do notice that one, I'm not Jack Kirby. I'm not, these guys that could just sit there, and I'm not at that level yet. And so, but I want to make sure that I have to be able to put out good work. So I'm trying my best to get out of that mindset that I have to get so many pages done a week. Within reason. Don't hold it like, I'm not talking about just half a page a week. And 4 kids in the knee way. Yeah. Definitely. You said it, not me. But so I try to break away from that idea. Well, it's the same thing with panels. I try to break away from the idea of something has to be uniformed. So I'd like to be a little bit more experimental, and that takes a little bit more time. So, yeah, it's kind of like something that nags you, because you always hear about people giving you a standard on how you should do. You should get this done first, this done first, this done first, because it works for them. I've heard people say, when you draw, don't listen to anything, don't watch anything, just, and I can't do that. I can't just draw in quiet. After all, I have 4 kids, so I have to have noise regardless. And then I've heard people say that they can't do anything unless it all depends on the person, So yeah, I've been trying to break that idea while still trying to be productive.
Well, sorry about that, Michael, but JD's not here, so I have to break somebody's chops. That's my co-host that abandoned me in Long Island.
Yeah, I'll remember that next time I see.
You got a fella in the back still trying to get in there, bro.
Oh man! All right, yeah, but he's still a swirling circle.
Oh, okay.
I'm waiting for a face to show up. Mark, where are you? So yeah, I mean, you just have to keep trying. Like,
look,
maybe.
we have.
Mark, can you hear us? All right, not yet. All right, well, he's working on it. He might get there. Just imagine when they move. There you go.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, Michael. So the thing you were saying about trying to break away from doing like standard panels and that sort of thing. So here's something for you guys. How do you feel about the 9-panel grid? Right? And in that sort of formatting, right? Because I think there's like the 9-panel grid is funky and it's weird, right? But it does work in its own weird way. But I think too much of it is just too much. But but what do you guys think about it? Like as far as panel layout, panel design, I think Larry, you're up.
I don't know if we've ever done 9 panels on a page, dude. So I mean, I don't know how to answer that question. Like you mean like a 9-panel grid, like something like you would see in like an Archie comic or something? Like,
well, something like Watchmen. If you look, Watchmen is just almost done entirely in 9-panel grids. The one guy that really turned me off was Tom King with what was that? Who's the escape artist with Big Barter's his wife?
Mr. Miracle.
Mr. Miracle, right. Oh my God. The entire thing is a 9-panel grid. Every page.
And it's the same type of 9-panel grid, right?
Yeah.
It's the vertical.
Yeah. And it's just,
grid. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so boring. And the thing, some of the stuff that's like the guy who drew it, the artwork is good. And the guy knows what he's doing, but it's just too much. Like if you see Watchmen, they'll have the 2-panel where they'll have 2 panels instead of like 3 panels on that top panel, or they'll do like half a page or whatever. But that one was just murder for me personally. I don't know. Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about, Larry.
Yeah, no, I don't really have an answer for that because we never done it. Our panels are all over the place. We like to break the walls. We like panel breaking. We like trying to be flashy like Image. And I find that even when we put 6 panels on a page, sometimes it's a little crowded. You know what I mean? Let alone 9. That's I guess where I stand on that.
Gotcha. Jeff, what do you got?
I've used a 9-panel grid before, and I'll kind of give you my idea about it. I think it helps depending on the situation. I think it needs to be used sparingly. It has its place like every other panel layout, but the one time that I used it, it was used specifically to show kind of an increasing sense of frustration between one character and another. So as the grid went on, there was a character who was talking, and while that character was saying something important, there was another character who was not listening. And with each subsequent panel, you saw the speaking character's frustration growing and growing and growing. And at the end of the 9-panel grid, that character basically explodes. Having the 9-panel grid kind of shows a way to break down the passage of time in a way that is almost like staccato, like quick cuts, if you will. So it gives you that quick cut type of idea. I think the 9-panel grid can also work if you're really trying to fit a lot of exposition on a page, because it gives you 9 separate opportunities to have someone talk. Right. And the last thing I'd say about 9-panel grid, especially if you're a writer, working at a smaller scale does give your artist a little bit of a chance to catch his breath. Big panels typically require a little bit more detail, a little bit more work, especially if you're trying to make it pop. a 9-panel grid, it does allow, depending on your artist, and a little bit of an opportunity for them to kind of take a knee and catch their breath and put that energy into the big panel. So, I was actually in a discussion with someone where they were like, I will never use a full page splash or full page splash. I'm like, you're out of your fucking mind. They're perfect. Like, you need those. You absolutely, he's like, I've never written a book that had one. And I'm like, well, I would hate to be your artist, man, because that's where you kind of spread your wings. A 9-panel grid kind of does, I think the opposite, is allows the writer to shine a little bit, allows them to kind of show what they can put. And it does give you, I think it gives your artist a little bit of an opportunity to relax a little bit. That's my perspective, having been on both sides of the page. I would not overdo it. I think Watchmen did it well because it was Watchmen, but not everyone is Watchmen. Not everyone is Alan Moore. Not everyone, can do that. So I would say it has its time and place.
Sean, how do you feel about it?
I have nothing against it. I don't want to have the contrarian view here. I think my view is a little nuanced like Jeff's, in the sense that a lot of early Marvel, I believe, started out as 9-panel. I recall something happening with Jack Kirby to where Stan Lee couldn't offer him more money with Fantastic Four, so he said, "How about you draw, 6 panels, right?" So, and that would essentially save him time or be easier because he was drawing less. So, I think every story needs to be told how it needs to be told based on the story. If it needs a splash, it needs a splash. If it needs 4 panels that page, it does. When I look at the more cinematic comics like Civil War, a lot of that was maybe 3 or 4 or 5 horizontal panels per page, and they were always horizontal, so it'd be cinematic. So Watchmen is obviously a master class in how to write a comic. Having 9 panels, like Jeff said, it allows you to have 9 separate scenes, right? 9 things happening on that page. So given a lot of how Moore wrote, he was fitting probably the most story on a page that you could be fitting, and sometimes 9 panels is the way to do that. So I don't disagree with it as a story technique, telling technique, or art form in that sense. But another time, if you're doing it, it could just be something's happening really fast, like an action scene. You see bullets coming out of a gun because let's say it was a revolver, and the hero turned the gun, and then they're falling out, and then there's a slap. So I think just given what you need to do in the story, if you're speeding up time or you're trying to fit a lot of different events onto a page, it has its place. That said, I don't use it a ton. For me, I'm probably more 4 to 6 panels, just because I'm trying to slow time down all that I can. I think it's really good when we could just see somebody's face, or see somebody's face up close, or reacting. I read a series called The Bar, in which case I'm always thinking about the human emotion side of things and the reactions. And if you're really trying to speed up time and do that in 9 panels, you're not really there with the person. So I think when we mentioned it wouldn't be fun to work with a writer who never did splash pages, I'd agree with that too, just because even if it's a half-page splash, that's when you get the ability for the artist to shine, to get into all those details. You might really capture a dynamic pose, or a crying moment, or a facial expression. So to me, that's what the story needs. But I will say this: masterfully done, it's okay, but who's going to do it masterfully, right? I mean, in this modern era, probably not many people need to be doing it.
True. Mr. Lanning, what do you got?
Well, when you say 9-panel grid, do you mean, okay, and you've seen some of, I've done that.
There's nothing wrong with it. I mean,
no. But no, the reason I say that is because I've done it. But I let me put it this way: the page that I'm currently working on for a project has 11 panels on it.
Right.
Because what the idea is, you hear panels, and you hear a number of panels, and you think, oh, it's all crowded boxes. But what you're doing is you're taking scenes inside of each of those panels, and you can pull out, you can push in, whatever you want to do with those panels. So when I look at 9-panel grids, yeah, they can be pretty boring. So shake it up. Why do all 9-panel grids have to be vertical? I mean, we were saying grid, yeah, I guess that makes sense. But what if you tilt one this way, or put one inside of another one, or cut one off, or do those type of things with it? I think, and that's another one of those things that you consistently hear, is you don't want to do more than 9 panels on a comic book page. This is why I kind of am jealous of the Europe model, because they have 9 by 12 pages, and and that allows them to put a lot more in there, even including those details in that. So you can get 10, 12 panels out of something and not miss anything. But it doesn't feel crowded or anything. So I think really it just comes about your perception on what you do. Just one panel you can have a close up. The next panel have a background scene, have an establishing shot. The number of panels only should be dictated by the pace, absolutely. But how you do those panels is really what it boils down to, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What is that? Travis says, I like everything Jeff is saying. Yes. Even if maybe
I like Travis. Thank you.
get to be confusing, but putting 2 cent in, don't take it too serious. Right? Okay. Yeah, but I think what it is with the European side is also larger.
Right.
So so I've seen them with 14 panels in one page, but the page itself is physically large. I'm gonna have to see this. There you go. She has to see it, sir. All right. Cool.
Like anything else, so much of it is just subjective and depends on the execution, really.
Right.
Mm-hmm. All right. Cool. All right. So Sean, I said I'd pull yours up because I know you said you had limited battery life, so I wanted to pull this up before before anything went wrong. So, sir, walk me through this, please.
So, 2100 AD is your story that we've heard before, like a Matrix or Terminator, artificial intelligence taking over the world. I think the differentiator is that what we have is probably from today to the year 2100, so about 80 years of progression, just seeing how that happened, how society changed, how AI became integrated. We don't realize it, but some of us own Teslas and they're to be self-driving cars. So everything's kind of like the Internet of Things and cloud connected. So multiply that times the decades, and I think we're going to have a world to where everything can be controlled by, say, cloud servers all over the world, in which case, if there ever was to be your kind of what is it, Skynet and Terminator, if you're ever to have the extension of like that or an Ultron, I've never thought that they really needed to make Terminators or bodies for themselves. I think that they could crash planes that are autonomously operated. I think that they could crash vehicles. I think that they could use existing drones and military technology to kind of destroy the world instantly. So in this story, you see a lot of realistic ways of the end of the world coming about. And you also see a little bit like Walking Dead in the sense that you see a different hierarchy of people. So you see who becomes important in this world, and it becomes a world to where people who are good at survival, who have military experience, who can get away from cars that might be coming after their group to attack them, or a helicopter attack. They become more like the front lines people, to whereas a lot of the coders, the programmers, the people that might have a way of disabling or dismantling or reasoning with the artificial intelligence, those are the ones that you see kind of protected amongst the group. So the series is designed to run 10 issues. And so what we have here is the first 5 issues, the first full arc being collected in a trade. So it's 112-page graphic novel. The trade is $20 plus shipping, so it's fairly reasonable. There's samples that you can click on the website to bring up, I think, probably 12 or 14-page PDF of pages from issues 1 and 2. As you're scrolling, some of these collages that I've done is just showing different scenes and events throughout the comic. The comic does a good job of like issue 1 really being like a issue 0 and kind of setting up, how we got here and how it struck and kind of sorry, I was reading the comments. How long does it take to usually produce something like that? So it takes as long as you want it to. Honestly, there's a 2-page splash in this comic of all kinds of buildings being destroyed, like 9/11 happening everywhere at once through airplanes and all over the world, and all the cars crashing into themselves on freeways, and just central points being attacked and targeted strategically by the AI. And it took me 2 days to write those 2 pages because of researching the locations, the population centers, you know, how I wanted each of the scenes presented, finding the resources for the artist to be able to do it, being on the same page with him, writing all that carnage and chaos in a really collective way to where it'd be like a good aesthetic on the page. So, you know, how long the first issue script took me, I'm not sure entirely, but I know those 2 pages alone took 2 full, probably 12-hour days, right? So it's weird. If I read like a Marvel spec script, Marvel style, I could probably have the whole script done in a matter of hours, right? Especially if there's just fight scenes or it's established characters and Wolverine versus Punisher or something like that, something that you can just kind of like plug and play with. So with something like this, I think it depends on the amount of time you're putting in it, the thought, the research, how accurate do you want it to be? Because the other thing is, you know, as I'm looking into artificial intelligence, I'm also looking at like where we're making our most progress. Who's doing it? Is it NVIDIA? Is it Intel? What chips are probably likely to lead us to AI breakthroughs? Is it the Hyperion processors or these chips? So then kind of coming up with your own names of the one that did it based upon like the generations of that they're doing the chips. So there's just so many nuances and little details that you can really pack into something like this and to make it real world accurate kind of a thing. So a lot of the writing that the company produces, Intelligent Comics, is just realistic concepts and trying to get the details right. So anyway, with this, I think we spend a lot of time, like I say, in the first issue, kind of just showing what the end of the world might look like, as opposed to it's 5 years later and we see a group of survivors that we don't know and we never get answers or explanations. I think one differentiator with 2100 AD is it's all kind of shown to you, and then it goes out of its way to kind of really explain and give you the backstory that you often don't walk into when you pop on some new series at Netflix. And so you get to see that, then you get to kind of grow with the characters. So this leaves off in a great point. I don't want to spoil too much as far as, you know, the issue 5, because nobody's read that one yet. It's exclusive to this trade. So you get all 5 issues in this first volume. And then there's add-ons, there's different things. We're offering a bookmark for the first time. There's an indie bundle that's a part of this. I read JD's book, and when I read his book, I was just impressed by how much I cared about that character and loved that character. So one thing I did when I was putting this campaign together was I reached out to JD and I just asked him if I could include that book as part of the bundle. He was kind enough to say yes to me. So for me, you know, anytime I read something that I think is good or I like in the indie community, I want other people to read it. I want other people to see it. So as far as I'm concerned, anytime I do a Kickstarter, I'm more than happy to, you know, include books and to have, you know, any of my backers discover the things that I like and think that are well written. So this campaign was a shorter one. It's only like a 22-day campaign. I think I just launched this past Tuesday. So we're approaching on Tuesday, we'll be about a week into it, and we're about halfway to goal right now.
Cool. Thank you for the kind words, Sean. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course.
All right. Cool, man. I mean, it looks awesome. Like you said, you're halfway there. You got 18 days to go.
And if you back it, you get the Oswald Chronicles. So how could you
Yes.
not want that?
Exactly. And a bunch of other books that I saw Confidence in there. That's really cool. You got a few other books in there.
Yeah, you know, the crazy thing is those were all just books that, you know, I read, whether I backed the campaigns or got them in a bundle, and I came across all the creators, and I just, you know, for me, like we talked about earlier, it's not the worst thing to sometimes be a little bit of an entertainment snob and only, you know, kind of watch your favorite shows or the ones you're more passionate about. And so the same thing in the reading, like when I come across good work, whether that's a good art team and a good writer, or it's just a really cool story, these are things that I want people to discover. I want them to learn about other creators, and I want to share them. So yeah, if I ever offer a book, anytime I do a campaign, it's because I personally really like that book.
Oh, cool, nice. Like I said, it looks fantastic, man. I mean, you know, so all right, so obviously you're the writer, you got an artist. Where did you find your illustrator?
Mostly through a lot of the Facebook groups, honestly. You know, there's there's always like the comics artist seeking commission or connecting comic book artists and writers. So anytime you join those groups and you post for work, or to me, I find it helpful to post kind of like what you want it to look like, so the artist knows, hey, this is me or this isn't me. And then, from there, just links to portfolios and finding somebody that's a match for the vision. One thing I don't know that we'll get into talking much about, what we look for when we hire creatives, but for me, I almost want to look at their portfolio and see that they've drawn characters the way I want them to, or see that, they there's something that I want them to do that I can see they've done in their past work.
Okay. Cool. Like I said, it looks fantastic. I mean, I don't think you're gonna have a problem reaching your goal.
I hope not.
No, I don't. You're gonna make it. You're gonna make it. You're a good way there, and it looks like a fantastic book. I like the premise, and the artwork looks incredible, man.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Very, very nice. Very, very nice. Okay. Cool. That looks good, man. I mean, so you've done 4 other campaigns before this one for this series.
So 2100 AD, I've been releasing in 44-page books. So kind of combining like issue 1 and 2, issue 3 and 4. Hey, he's back.
Mazz, you made it. Mark.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
wow, look at that. Amazing.
Yeah. Everybody, this is Mr. Mark Mazz.
Hey, guys. I'm sorry I still look like a black hole, but, we'll see if that comes up.
All right. So I'm sorry, Sean.
Look, wow.
No, you're there. So Sean,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, just two other campaigns for 2100 AD, and then I have the company has a couple other series that we've done a campaign or 2 for. So about a handful total is what we've done, but this will be the 3rd one for 2100 AD.
All right, cool.
It's
Nice, very
impressive,
nice.
isn't it, guys? I think it's very impressive.
Yeah, it is. No, I mean, yeah, that's really cool. All right.
I kind of want to give the mic to him because we finally have him here, right?
I know. It's just like, I know we should be like, Mark, answer the last 2 questions, damn it.
The 9-pound grid.
What the last panel? There you go. Is it your favorite in creation? No.
I think it's really interesting because when you start figuring out what you want on the page, it's almost like if you're trying to cram a lot in, you end up with a lot of panels. I've seen this with a lot of people where they just, instead of having 2 pages, they're making 11 panels, and that's okay if you want that information on a single page, because I'm all about like, as you're reading through a page, do you want to turn to the next page, because I want story flow. So if the 11 panels gets what you want across and then you turn, cool. But if the 11 panels is just because, well, I got so much to say, but I don't have enough room, that's a pacing problem. And I'm not down for that. I think the 9 panels, like in how Alan Moore did it, I tried it a couple times. It's incredibly hard. I mean, your artist has to be down with it first. Otherwise, they're just going to think you're a masochist, I think it's difficult all the way around. The 6-panel page is much more common. All the old Marvels that I read and, loved, and, some of the Kurt Swan stuff from DC, they were 6 panels, that 9-panel, it better be worth it, because you think of how much dialogue goes into each panel, so maybe not every panel, is heavily dialogue when you do the 9-panel grid. Maybe it's like just a couple words, or it's Commissioner Gordon looking off, Batman looking back, like that. It's crazy, that kind of stuff.
Now, Mark, before you go on,
yep,
let these gentlemen know your CV, because you have one of those. You're that type of guy. Mark doesn't have a resume.
I worked at Marvel as a freelance art director. I worked at DC as the design services manager. Which is all the covers and all the interior pages, all that. I've done a ton of advertising and promotional work for companies like Sirius and Caliber and Crusade. I was a editorial director for Crusade. Done trading cards, done like just a ton of stuff. I got my own publishing company called Atlas Unleashed. And I also interview, it's the written word, Comics Creator News, which is, it's cool. I mean, I like this too, but the written word, sometimes it can be more refined than a videocast interview, because, you really got to consider what you're saying because, libel issues. So it's a different thing. So that's my CV. I mean, there's more, but do I want to bore you?
Listen, we don't worry about insulting anyway. We just do what we do. It's okay.
No, but I want to say to Sean, I think very impressive. Really, I get what you're talking about. Researching the tech and trying to make sure it's accurate. I got a sci-fi series I'm working on that I want to do as a streaming TV show, and that's all about money. But I've done like just about everything else, and I really totally get what you're saying about the research. The research, it's like a rabbit hole. How much further down can I go in this rabbit hole, and what value is it going to be?
Yeah,
so,
especially in sci-fi, right? Because it's not just about what things can do now. It's about what will they be able to do? What's more likely? Like, is this already happening? I don't know. Like a good example is there's just one page that has one panel about how we released sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere maybe 50 years before, and it gave us a white sky, and that's actually something they're proposing doing in the coming decade to combat like global warming, climate change kind of a thing. Is because apparently if the sky's white like that, it'll block out a good amount of the sun's rays and potentially slow warming. So like, does that really matter to my story? No. And yet it's in there. And how much time did it take me to like look into that and learn it and read articles to make one panel? You know what I mean? It's tough.
What's interesting about, sci-fi, just like, fantasy and other genres, you get to pick and choose what you're saying, right? And a lot of my interest with sci-fi is it's not just like the tech, where the technology is going, where the science is going. It's how that gets misused that I always find very interesting, because, like, wow, okay, so we're going to develop, some kind of virus to fight these other viruses, but it also infects the entire population. Oh, that's COVID. Right. That's COVID, right? So how does it get misused? Or
that's also mimic, right? They
make
some kind of like a bug to attack other bugs, and then it becomes its own thing. That's it's endless.
It's kind of like this crazy thing, and the sci-fi, it's particular too, because you really can dig deep into that rabbit hole, and what's the bonus for digging that deep? Hopefully you come out with something that's cool.
And then we always end up with like an outbreak, right? Or something, right? And speaking of outbreak, here we go. Niobe outbreak.
Oh,
cool.
Oh. So Larry, brother, talk me through this.
Well, so Niobe Outbreak is the next, addition to the Niobe sort of series. It's a 4-part mini series that takes Niobe through her own version of the outbreak. We all lived through COVID for the last couple of years. So this story is, what if an outbreak happened in Niobe's world, and the virus that is spreading around is affecting the human population and the superpower being population a little bit differently. and she's got to navigate that, and that will take us through a variety of things. Masking, social distancing, mandates. You know, the fear mongering.
Yeah,
All the sort of social situations that we had to deal with in the last little while. And as you can, as you scroll down, JD, there are 14 covers, so this is a long one, brother.
No, but you know what though? There's a lot of, but they're fantastically illustrated. I mean, these are really, really nice covers.
Yeah, I mean, I did 11 covers last time, and then we squeezed in a couple more. I mean, we just had opportunities to work with certain cats that I just couldn't say no to, like a Keith Garvey right there, which is one of the first images that we had done and sort of set the tone for everything. RB White, who's been with us since 2016, when we were still, doing black and white comics that looked like they came out of a garage. You know what I mean? Mark May jumped on. He just wanted to do a cover for free, and we said, "Sure, go ahead, brother." Fern Cord. That's the only cover that has our new villain right on the front there. That's the Mary Machine Gun artist, Fern Cord, right there with Cinder. Greg Bo Watson. He's been everywhere right now. If there's a Bad Girl Kickstarter going on, chances are Greg Bo's got a cover on it. Chris Williams here came to us wanting to do a cover, and he's got a different style to Niobe here. He's sort of got that industrial 2000 AD heavy metal sort of vibe going on. Mm-hmm. That's epic. Paul Green and Ula Moss. I mean, these are, Ula Moss is basically a legend in coloring at this point. She's worked with J. Scott Campbell and Jamie Tyndall and, all these, John Royal, who's doing a lot of Zenoscope. And of course, Mr. Paul Green here. They're an exclusive team. You hire one, you get her, Nice. That's, of course, our top selling cover too. That's the one that's in the lead. And then, of course, this was a last minute entry, but we couldn't not have Mr. Ben Dunn, the founder, the figurehead of Antarctic Press, do a cover for us. He's the guy that put us on comic book shelves. We're in Diamond, where people can go buy Niobe for $4.99. It's great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And then Morgan Bailey says she wanted to do Niobe cosplay. So we did a 10 photo shoot, 10 photos as a shoot, and we took one and made one as a cover. Cool. I swear to God, JD, there is a book under all this.
I would hope so, yes.
But, we got all kinds of different combo packs. Justin Hunt combo pack, Courtney Rose. Keith Garvey, we gave the men's magazine treatment to one of his to his cover right there. Paul Green triple pack that gives you the foiled version of it, the Virgin edition, and then the standard edition. Nice. That there tier is all gone. The ultimate Paul Green bundle. There was only 10 of those. RB White combo pack, which has the only ever sort of not safe for work naughty cover that we done back a couple of years ago for Birthright #2. And then original cover art from RB White. He wanted to throw up some art and see if they move, so we sold a couple of those, which is great. And then sneak peek at Morgan's photo shoot here, just a couple of pictures. For those that want to see the rest, they'll have to buy into that tier.
Cool. Now, are you doing like printed cards, or are you doing? Is it like a PDF you're going to be getting?
No. These are going to be like physical, in your hand photos. Nice. And then we have actually, some pages. These are drawn by Juan Antonio Altaveras, colors by Dan Overa. And we give you the new bad girl, the new villain, straight out of the gate, and she's not happy, man. We live in a world now where it's very chaotic. Lots of protests going on over a variety of issues, and she's certainly stirring the pot here. Think of my super beings called genomes, genetic anomalies, feeling like they've been marginalized. Okay, that they don't get a fair shake, that they have been systemically oppressed, and they're not happy about it.
Right.
And then Niobe has to come in and confront Cinder here as they sort of rampage through the streets, lighting shit on fire, And it's a showdown. That's how the book opens,
Nice.
All kinds of stretch goals. We pretty much met most of these. These stretch goals are done in Canadian dollars. So it says that we reached 19,000 on your screen for US dollars, but in Canada that's actually approaching 25,000. That shows you the currency difference, if you will. But all these stretch goals unlock at Canadian dollars. So we're approaching the 25,000 one now. We got Pete Vask and Phil Leon, who are guys that co-host my show, come in and do a couple of cards. We got Bun Leong stickers. We got Sweet Heme Art, who's a great Canadian girl. The Ben Dunn bookmark. The Paul Green postcard. The Cinder trading card that goes with our set. And then at 25, we released the Avani sticker, who's the bad girl from Niobe #2. And if we do hit 30,000 Canadian, we got 3 days left to try and get that done. Everyone will get the Vanessa Keats promo card, and she's another bad girl that we introduced in the Niobe outbreak. In fact, she's the focal point of the whole story. So
nice.
A nice little close up of Bun's chibi sticker there. And then there's add-ons. So any of the variant covers can be added on, so people can customize how they wish. If they want cover A and cover D, they can do that. That there is the Niobe #1 3rd edition. So that's the very first Niobe we done reprinted. We got variant covers from Niobe Origins, which was our last sort of major campaign. So some of those are up for grabs. Everyone loves their Steph Wilson. So we got the Steph Wilson dual pack. And if people just want to binge Niobe, they missed out. They didn't get on Birthright. They didn't get on Origins, whatnot. We have the Niobe trade paperback, which I just finished fulfilling last month.
Smart.
Yeah, they were really nice. They came out really good. And then as you scroll down, it's just notes about the creative teams, some of the great people that's worked on the book. There's a nice long list there. Notes on surveys. Guys, do your surveys. We need to know where to send your books. I still got a couple people that don't do their surveys, and like a year later, one comes in and is like, "Oh, do I even still have that?" What I mean? And then we just give notes on shipping and how we do things, what people can expect. We always give a tracking number with every package. We use Geminis, and then I throw in some of the testimonials, if you will, of people showing off their loot and that we deliver, and we deliver on time, and no one's waiting 2 years for a book or anything like that. We get her done, and Comics Wellspring, we plugged them because they give us a nice 15% discount.
Nice.
Of everything, and we get all our tchotchkes and whatnot through them. So, I mean, that's the campaign in a nutshell. We're already starting to do work on the second issue for Outbreak. We've already started to do a couple of covers. Juan is, we got 7 pages left to draw the book. I'm aiming to ship this out October, November. I say November on the campaign, but I'm hoping it'll be actually earlier than that. So while Juan's drawing them, Dan's been coloring them, and then it goes to SK for lettering. Then we put it all together and send it off to the printer.
Very nice.
Cool.
Yeah, it looks awesome, man. I mean, listen, I got your trade, and like you said, you deliver, and that's and everything.
Well, I mean, we build our reputation on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, we have a lot of sexy covers and stuff, but really, I think the appeal about back in the Niobe book is that we've been on time. We've been doing this for 8 years now. We keep improving our game. There's always, we're always learning, right? We managed to get published with Antarctic Press. I don't know how in the hell that happened, but that happened, and that's helped out quite a bit. Just like people going to the comic book shop, seeing Niobe, you know, and then they realize that there's a Kickstarter, you know, out there on the go for a brand new Niobe. And when this is complete, hopefully Antarctic Press picks that up as well. The thing with Antarctic Press is they don't take on books that are not complete, right? So if I'm saying I'm doing a 4-part miniseries, well, I got to have all 4 parts done before they'll publish it. You know, because they don't want to be like, you know, do a book, because we've seen, you know, lots of cases out there where someone will start a project, you know, and they don't get all the way through, right? And so it's sort of like, you know, the ball's left hanging, you know. We don't want to be that, you know. So what does that say? 24? Yeah.
24.6.
Yeah, so that's in my currency. I'm, you know, $19,000 is pretty respectable. You know, hopefully we'll hit that 20 mark. This is actually the most successful Niobe campaign that we've done by a couple $100, at least in my currency. The exchange rate changes so much that if this was this time a couple of years ago, that would have already said 20. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, this is it. You know, I'm making a run at this, JD. Right now, you know, I'm kind of in between jobs. I'm looking for a new part-time job, but really, this has been my job now. You know, and after this campaign ends in 3 days, I'll announce it here. We're coming to Indiegogo.
Ah, nice.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Good.
I mean, it won't be as big. Like, you know, we're going, you know, out of the 14 covers, we're going to offer 7, but they're going to be the 7, you know, top ones. We're going to change up the stretch goals a little bit, but it'll basically be the Niobe Outbreak Second Chance campaign coming to Indiegogo. I've already got it built. Just ready to launch it. I don't want to launch, you know, I'm going to wait till this ends, wait a couple of days, and then, you know, we're going to go straight into it. And then when I fulfill, I'll fulfill both of them at once.
Nice. Okay, cool. I mean, listen,
Awesome.
yeah. You know, I'm hoping that you make enough money that you don't have to find a day job.
Well,
Yeah, right.
You know, here's the thing. You know, between the trade, between this and whatnot, I got a little cushion in the bank. It's not a big cushion, but I got a cushion. I got enough money to pay for the second book in its entirety without even diving into the funds that you see there, right?
Nice.
The funds that you see there are going to be used for printing and shipping, and then I'll probably be able to keep half of that in the bank, you know, while the other book is crowdfunding, you know, part 2. So, you know, the comic book itself is in good hands. It's paying for itself. It gives a little profit, but I need a job just to have that, you know, weekly paycheck. You know what I mean? Because when you do comics like this, yeah, it's cool, but the money only comes in batches, and maybe it's only 2 or 3 times a year. You know what I mean? And then you gotta, you know, stretch that out. You know?
Yeah.
There's something called grocery money, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. You know, pocket money. You know, paying for gas, paying for food, paying the bills. Right. Just having that security, because if one cog in this wheel breaks,
yeah,
you know what I mean? The whole thing will fall apart. Like, imagine if Kickstarter shut down, right? Or imagine like you're halfway through a book, and you know, I was a little worried because my artist Juan took a stroke. I was worried for Juan, and I was worried about what we do next. You know, is Juan out of the game? What happens? You know, like, do we need to find another artist? Do we have to start all over? So, like, if one cog in the wheel breaks in comic books, especially when you're working with a variety of people, it can really, you know, throw a monkey wrench into things.
Yeah. Or you could be like Eric July and have PayPal hold on to.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's
30 of your funds.
Listen, I do all my transactions with all my artists through PayPal. This is it, right? So we got our eggs in so many different baskets. You know, like Kickstarter's always been really great to me. Pete Vast, man, his cards are in the campaign. So we've always, you know, PayPal. I pay all my artists through PayPal. That's what most people use. You know, I'm gonna have to look into alternatives for all these things, though, right? Because if one of them fails, if Kickstarter all of a sudden went away, you know, and I'm just on Indiegogo, well, the thing is that our Indiegogos have never done as well as our Kickstarters by far. You know, I think the best I've ever done on an Indiegogo was about $4,000 Canadian. Right, that's just extra money for the campaign. You know, I mean, I'm going to be printing these books anyway, right? So why not, you know, throw it up there, get some extra money, you know, a couple extra $1,000 that can go towards coloring or pages for the next book. You know,
definitely. I mean, yeah, that's what I think Indiegogo and eventually Zoop they're going to be like good extra platforms just to release the work on.
Yeah, and being on the shelf doesn't hurt. But I'll tell people, the fantasy, that some people have is like, oh, you're with this company, and I saw your book on my comic shop. You must be doing really, really well. I'll tell you that the direct market doesn't pay as well as people think it does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got to sell comic books by the tens of thousands to really make a living off that. Niobe did about 2,500 copies for Antarctic Press, and that's a small, press company, which is pretty good for just coming out of the gate, right? But it's nowhere like we're not Batman or anything, but we're out there, and we're proud of that.
Right. Listen, I mean, and here's the thing: is like talking about those numbers, 2,500 books, right? It's a respectable number, right? But you're probably going to see 50 cents, 60 cents per book. It's only like $1,200, $1,300.
Oh yeah, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be probably slightly over $1,000 that I'll get from that. But
Exactly.
the real payoff is that it's out there now. It's sort of like part of comic book history. Maybe 10 years from now, the way I discovered Ninja High School, some 14-year-old kid is going through a comic book back bin somewhere, and they pull that out and go, oh, I like the looks of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or the one thing I'm hoping, because I'm eventually looking to do that myself, is that hopefully there'll be some float over. So some of those comic shop buyers will eventually float over to Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and they'll start picking up on it, on the campaigns. So that money will go.
And vice versa. Maybe the backers who've come by, now can pick up the book in the shop. You know what I mean? Like, look, there's some books that started off on Kickstarter that are in shops now, and I just sometimes I wait to get them in the shop now. Like, I'll tell you, White Widow is one of those books. You know what I mean? From Merc Magazine. I get their book, in the shop. Miss Meow is another book. That started off as a Kickstarter. That's in shops now. Of course, Lady Death, is in comic book shops. You know what I mean? And so what we're starting to see here is some of these smaller press companies are picking, like Scout Comics is a good example of a company that picks up these crowdfunded books and gives them a chance and puts them out in the direct market. And that's really exciting to see.
Yeah, it really is. I mean,
I got to ask you about your character for a second. I didn't say it before, but I was the art director for Vampirella, so you passed the Vampirella test. Just tell you that.
Well, Vampy is it's a pretty big inspiration. I'm a guy who grew up reading Spider-Man and X-Men, and then as comics sort of changed a little bit, we saw the explosion of sort of like Batgirl comics. We saw Evangeline, we saw Darkchild, we saw Gen 13, we saw Danger Girl, we saw all this cool Lady Death, right? Purgatory. All this cool sort of stuff. Witchblade, is a big favorite of mine. God bless Michael Turner. You know what I mean? All that stuff is a huge influence on Niobe. But that also includes Jim Lee's Psylocke, Dazzler, Magic of the X-Men. Hell, Niobe's even got a little bit of Gem in the hologram.
The question I got to ask you is, you got some really cool, intense images. So now I'm going to do the other aspect of it here. You're publishing books. Have you thought about doing more merch with it? Maybe, not just like T-shirts, but maybe do like a calendar, or the large, 6x9 trading cards, so that you get a great image. Have you thought about doing that kind of merch, or maybe doing that merch through a Kickstarter?
We've done T-shirts. We never done the calendar. My buddy Max has done calendars, and they've done pretty good for him. My focus really has been sort of like building the book itself. If I was doing like Lady Death numbers, if you will, then no problem. Let's bring out the statues. Let's bring out the toys. Let's, you know what I mean?
No, I'm not talking about that. It's very easy to do a print.
Yeah,
a version of like a calendar, or like I said, the 6x9 cards, or because we have enough images now between 11 and 14.
We don't do 11x17 prints because they require a whole different sort of packaging. I like whatever we send out, for the most part, to be able to fit in a Gemini mailer. You know what I mean? Yeah. So they're usually smaller tchotchkes, the stickers, the trading cards, bookmarks, things of that nature. I'll tell you this, though, to answer your question, I do have merch. It's just not on the Kickstarter, right? I have a Teespring account. And I just built this actually the other day, the other week. And so on there, you can get a variety of things, posters, you can get T-shirts, of course. We got a wall flag that's on there that people can buy. The only problem with Teespring is that, the profits are very limited because they take, they're doing all the work, right? So
yeah. But
we'll get there eventually.
Yeah,
it's good. It's good though because you don't have to have any inventory, right? Made to order is always awesome.
Well, yeah, I don't have to ship it out. I don't have to pack it. When we did T-shirts before, because I'm in Canada, I would have to order my T-shirts from a company in the States. They would send them all to me. Then I have to pay duty on that, and then I would have to send all the T-shirts back out. And by the time it was all said and done, it wasn't worth the time and trouble and money.
That's funny. One time I ordered T-shirts in Canada.
Right?
I had them shipped down here. So it's hilarious that you'd have to ship shirts from the US over there.
Well, here, let me just. I'm going to share the screen for a second, JD.
Yeah, share your Teespring. Come on.
Well, I think that since we're on that topic, yeah.
Might as well.
Boom. So Teespring again is sort of an expensive thing. These prices are all in Canadian dollars. It would actually be cheaper for you guys in the US. But we started off with 4 posters. We got a couple of different T-shirts here that we got going on. We got a chibi pillow. You know what I mean?
Nice.
We got the hoodie. We got the mask. We got the convention tote bag. We got the wall flag. We even got phone cases.
Nice.
And this is just something I threw together last week. So this is a work in progress. I'll throw the link though, JD, in your private chat, and you can circulate that around.
Cool.
Yeah, so merch is something that is definitely on my mind, but my focus really is on the book. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like you got to cut yourself in half. It's if you don't do the books don't come out, then the merch is worthless.
Yeah,
if you don't do the merch, then you're missing out on some of what you could be doing.
Well, I just don't know if it's popular enough yet to warrant a bunch of merch, because merch often, is also, extra expenses, and it's, more things that we got to juggle. And I would like to be doing like $50,000 campaigns, to be honest with you, before I start offering a bunch of different merch.
That makes sense, Larry. A lot of these campaigns I see that offer statues, they go backerless, right? Or they have one backer, right? So I think it takes time kind of to build, and eventually, if you start getting those campaigns and those kinds of numbers, people are going to be asking you for it. And when that's happening, you probably know it's time, right?
Yeah. And I know he's not talking about statues. He's talking about like 6x9, like postcards and stuff like that, which we have. We have the Paul Green postcard, which is, I think, 6x9, but, I'm thinking, a little bit beyond that, right? I've seen lots of campaigns that come out of the gate and they're offering the moon, the stars, and the sun, but they're not even, making goal or barely making goal. And I don't know how they can afford to pump out all this stuff that they're promising. I think people overpromise sometimes,
And JD, I think acknowledged that too much early on was maybe a big mistake, right?
Right. Exactly. Yes. We're just spending a little bit too much. It's it's one of those things. You get excited. You see it. You want it. And let me tell you, man, I love it. I love having it. And if I could do more, trust me, I'll do more, because it's the one thing. All right, I've written in prose, right, and I write comics, right. I don't know any prose writer who doesn't want to see their stuff illustrated out, because they like seeing that visual of their creation, right. And then, so I've seen a lot of comic books. So when I can hold something that's 3D, it's even more exciting, because it's just one extra layer, So it's one of those things. So yeah.
Well, I'm with that. Like, I would love to see a couple properties of mine in action figures, but when there are 12 people in the world that want them right now, you know what I mean? That's a problem, right? So
the one good thing is that there is 3D printing, and you can get 12 made.
True.
They're going to be on the higher. They're going to be expensive, but you can get.
They're $5,000 a piece. That's all.
No, you can get.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, probably about $40-$50 a pop. They're just, they're not as expensive. Now, hold on, gentlemen. because now we got to go Renegades. Renegades. So, Mr. Mr.
All right.
Jeff.
All right. So one thing I did not do was I did not shoot for the moon on this. This is my first Kickstarter. I wanted to have something that was manageable, believing very much in the under promise and over deliver aspect. I'm currently at about 153% funded, so reached the goal and a little bit more. Plenty of time left in the campaign. You guys were talking about 30-day campaigns being 60-day campaigns with all the prep work. I did a 60-day campaign, which actually was a 90-day campaign because I didn't know what I didn't know, and I wanted to make sure I gave myself enough time to figure it out. So the good news is, fully funded and then some, plenty of time to get some more funding. The bad news is that means I have to pay attention to this closely for another 36 more days. But again, not knowing what I didn't know, I wanted to make sure I gave myself enough breathing room to kind of get it figured out. So this is Accidental Renegades. It's my first crowdfunded campaign. Kind of as it says, it's a 36-page manga-inspired comic about a team of bumbling superpowered mercenaries who unintentionally ignite a global revolution. It asks the question, how do you stay out of the public eye when you unwittingly become the most notorious people alive? Kind of flips the idea of superhero tropes a little bit on its ear. A lot of Western comics, a lot of manga as well, which I'm inspired by. The heroes go out of their way to become heroes. Their goal is to be the best hero they can be. This group is exactly the opposite. This is a group of people that don't want to be heroes. They want to be left alone and unwittingly have heroism kind of thrust upon them. And then the question becomes, how do they respond to that newfound notoriety when it's the last thing they wanted to do? So here you see some of the villains that kind of come to play. Time Bomb, he kind of originates early in to give an idea that this universe, this world that we're about to enter, is not like the one we're currently in. World building is a very big thing for me. It's kind of like Sean said, you could spend most of your life building a world, right? But you have to kind of distill it down to what's most important. So I spent time figuring out currency, figuring out organization. How does the military look? How does the law enforcement look? How does the media look? How does the social structure look? Because those are the things that impact the group. At the end of the story, you're introduced to this group of bounty hunters. It's got kind of the typical 4-person, superhero type team. It's got the powerhouse, the leader, the femme fatale, and of course, it's got the loose cannon. Anytime you could put a crazy clown in with a gigantic mallet, I believe you have to take advantage of that. So I made sure I created a new character that fits that bill. When creating the villains, it was very important to me to have ones that were kind of the opposite side of the heroes to give them a challenge, not just physically, but also kind of, from an ideological perspective. So that's kind of what I tried to do here. You see some sample pages. Continuing to work and refine the sample pages, but that's the first page to give you an idea that the world we're entering is kind of unusual. Inspired by a lot of things that are a little bit more off the beaten path. Like I said, I am inspired by manga. Some Western comics like Next Wave, Umbrella Academy, Saga, I Hate Fairyland. Books that are a little bit more eclectic, and artists that their art style is a little bit more eclectic, I definitely tend to lean towards, and I think that really inspires and also influences my art as well as my writing. So you see some sequential panels, some of the individuals we'll be dealing with. One of the tiers in the book that I've closed down was a tier to have your logo or your likeness in this book. As you can see, with a lot of city shots and a lot of crowd shots, it gives a lot of opportunities to fit logos and likenesses into it. So as we scroll down to the reward tiers, you see the first one is the Digital Renegade. It's just a copy of the book digitally, and you also have your name in the appreciation section. One thing I wanted to remain cognizant of is I've seen Kickstarters where you have to reach a certain level to get to the appreciation page, and that's great if that's how people run their Kickstarters. But one thing that I kind of believe is if you're going to give me your money, even if it's going to be at the lowest tier, I appreciate that, and I'm going to put your name in the book. So any donation gets your name in the appreciation page. So that's the Digital Renegade. The official Renegade is your name is still in the appreciation page. You get a digital copy, and you get a physical copy that I'll sign so that it'll be worth money when I'm dead. The Exceptional Renegade is the next level. That is all the things from the previous, but it also includes a personal sketch that I'll draw probably on 5x7 by the time I get done with it. And then the last tier is the Commercial Renegade, which is now closed. That had everything from the previous tiers as well as the opportunity to be in the book. I kind of closed that out. It was very successful, probably more successful than I anticipated it would be. And eventually I had to kind of cap it because my concern was that this was going to be an alien world with a lot of middle-aged white guys in the book, because that's a lot of people were buying it. And I kind of started to worry that I was going to lose the story because of the tier. So I said, this is great. This is definitely not what I expected, but there's
Just put
only
them
so
all
many.
in the prison. Put all
Yeah,
the
right.
middle-aged white guys in the alien world
Right.
prison.
There's only so many people I could put in this book that's supposed to be aliens. So I closed that one out, but that's a good lesson learned for the next Kickstarter, is to have that tier, but maybe, set it up a little bit differently. Kind of like, I mentioned earlier, I'm the creator, I'm the writer, I'm the artist. I kind of do everything with it. That is a blessing and a curse. It allows me to kind of keep everything uniform. It doesn't rely much on collaboration, and it definitely makes things work a little bit more quickly. But I do have to remind myself to step back from time to time and make sure I'm able to look at the problems that the work may have. Sometimes being so close to it makes that a little bit difficult. I've got some beta readers and some people to help out that hopefully will keep that from being a problem. I actually self-published a book earlier. I was very proud of it for the most part. A couple things I would like to do differently. Published it, got it out, did all that stuff, and one of my kids was looking through it and goes, you have a typo in here, and I'm like, you son of God, it wasn't a typo so much as it was a formatting error, right? I did something with one of the word balloons, and in doing so, it made one of the words, it cut off one of the words. I didn't even catch it before I sent it off to the printer. I looked at least 100 times, but still missed it. So the lesson learned on that is I'm going to have other people look at it before I go final, and I think that will help me catch some of my mistakes. So the lesson on this has been great. I definitely had a Kickstarter that was longer than it needed to be. I know a lot of studies have indicated that 30-day Kickstarters make just as much money as 60-day Kickstarters, but I'm also the person that tends to have to learn things through going through them. And to be quite honest, this was too important to me to screw up. So I'd rather give myself more time to figure it out than less time and figure it out too late. So, I've got 36 more days, plenty of time to work on it, but I'm pretty proud of it so far. Pretty proud of the product. I learned a tremendous amount from the first book I did, not from necessarily even a sales perspective, but a technical perspective as well. I do all my work digitally and using Clip Studio Paint. I don't know, if anyone's familiar with that, but there is a learning curve with that program, and being able to figure out what the program can and cannot do and use it efficiently, I think has not only helped my art in general, but my storytelling in particular.
All right, cool. How many issues is the series?
The series is going to be probably about 4 arcs total. Each arc is going to be about three issues, with each issue averaging between 30 to 35 pages. It means that basically each volume can work out to be a little over 100 pages, and each volume is designed to kind of tell one character's story. So there's really 5 characters in total, and this gives the opportunity to focus on a little bit about each one. I like the idea of a team book for a lot of reasons. One is I think they're fun. I think they're more interesting to work on. But I find that if you look at a book with a singular lead, you tend to get a singular perspective. And we'll use Batman as an example. Batman is a great character, but Batman is always going to approach a problem through Batman's eyes, right? With a team book, you not only get the diversity of characters, but you get the diversity in perspective, so that each character can represent something a little bit different, and anyone reading it would have a higher chance of kind of being able to associate themselves with something in the book, because it gives them a little bit more of, I don't get what this person's doing, but I totally get what this person's doing. And a team dynamic, I think, gives you that ability to have people play against each other, create tension not only in their story, but also in their relationships.
Yeah, collective class.
Yeah.
No, it's really cool.
This looks great. Really looks great.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. I like the idea, and I like what you're saying about teams, that you get different perspectives from each character. There are a lot of team books out there now that it's, the same homogenous, viewpoint from all the characters in the same book. And it's just, I won't name names, but there are plenty of team books like Justice League.
I absolutely understand what you're saying. And I was asked once about, where did the book start versus where it is now? And the fact is, there were probably, I would say, maybe 2 characters out of the 5 that have pretty much stayed the same throughout the evolution of the story, right? But there have been a couple that have come and gone, have changed fairly dramatically. And I kind of, as I went through it, as I was shaping the script and shaping the plot, I realized that the characters didn't interact in the way that they need to kind of move the story along, and that 2 characters that were supposed to have a romantic relationship originally, turns out it was pointless to have that, and it doesn't fit the story. One thing that I kind of always say when I talk to anyone is everything that you should do, at least in my opinion, should be in service to the story. So
Right.
if your characters don't move your narrative forward, then they just don't need to be there. You could maybe do that later in a subsequent issue, but at that moment, if that doesn't advance your story, then they don't need to be there. And so I've moved characters, I've changed characters. The villains have changed a little bit for the reason that the coolest looking villain, if it doesn't move the story forward, is just a cool looking villain that really doesn't contribute. And there's no point in that, really. Like, there's thousands of cool things you can do, but still serve the story. So it went through a lot of iterations, and working on my own can be a challenge, but I tend to be very critical and edit myself a lot. So I think that maybe just from personality might overcome some of those problems. So,
Yeah, the thing I find really interesting is, can you go back to the characters, JD? All the way at the top. I think that all of these characters are they're interesting. They're unique. That they don't look like they're based on anything else. They're really, really sharp. Really, their own creation, and that's because it springs from your vision. And
no, I appreciate
I
that.
find this really, really to be interesting, because it's rare you see that.
Well, I really do appreciate that. And one thing I can say is, being a creator is about, I think we all can agree, is being a student as much as anything, right? You kind of have to study and learn and everything else. And as I was going through the process of just something, I don't even remember what, but just in learning, had kind of dug more into, ideas like shape language and silhouettes and things that make the character stand out. So what I started to do was, I actually, in the Troublemakers, which was my previous book, was I wanted to identify characters by shape. Like, these are the circle characters, these are the squares, these are the triangles, and have ones that are kind of almost defined a little bit by their shape language, at least a little bit. I did the same thing here with the Accidental Renegades, because I think it's interesting. I think it's easier. My work tends to be detailed, but not hyper detailed. It probably leans more towards animation than realism. And the shape language, I think, becomes even more important when you do that. And then the other thing I wanted to make sure I was able to do was that every character is recognizable by a silhouette. If you can make every character recognizable purely by their silhouette, then those characters, at least visually, are going to be unique. And one of the characters, Mecha, who's the big robot guy, his design changed a little bit from what you see here, because having his head set so low on his body made his silhouette look like a penis. And I was like, I can't have that. I can't have that. I can't have dick silhouette. I just can't do it. So, and also I feel like it took away a lot of the emotional ability to draw him. Like, you can't really draw him in a profile if his head is set so low. So I kind of rearranged the character a little bit. So now in the current iteration, his body is a little bit more squared off. His head is a little bit higher from that original version. But again, it was because the shape language didn't fit with what the silhouette was trying to say. So, these are the things that I've kind of learned. I've learned a lot technically that I think definitely makes this book stronger than my previous outing. But I think I've also learned a lot just from storytelling and going through the Troublemakers, which was my first book. I still see a lot of things in there that I think told the story well, but I also see a lot of opportunities where I could have done it better. And reading an interview, I think one of the Kubert brothers, unfortunately, I don't recall if it was Adam or Andy, but one thing he said was, if you screw up a panel, that's okay. Because if you're in this for the long haul, you're going to get a chance to fix that later. So I look at my first book and I'm like, man, I really wish I had done that differently. The takeaway on that is, well, then do it differently next time. So I actually had a 9-panel grid in the Troublemakers, started working a 9-panel grid into Accidental Renegades. And because it is involving a character that isn't fully introduced yet, I figured out a way to do it that was better for the story without using a 9-panel grid. At least I think it's better. I think it's definitely more visually interesting. So this is something I probably would not have known to do a year ago, but I know to do it now. So, always learning, everything in service to the story. And, if it's not good enough today, just get it better next time.
No, I think you're well on your path to having a unique vision. I'm not going to say a unique style, because that doesn't mean anything.
Right.
A unique vision. And it's funny that you mentioned that with the Kuberts. It was probably Andy Kubert. And
yeah, I think it might have been. Yeah,
Andy was always the less sought after one of the two brothers, but I think he's much more interesting. He's more like his dad.
Right.
So what I find interesting is I look at what you're doing, and I see a lot of the manga. I see some Otomo, and I see some Matt Wagner. So if you know who all those guys are,
well, that's high praise indeed.
Great
definitely, I don't see that, but I'll take it.
So,
I know the work. I know the work from when they first started. You know, when they the first work, and you've got some really cool, unique work coming up, and that's
I appreciate that.
Just keep working, and you're gonna surprise yourself very fast.
Jeff,
Surprise the rest of them
Thank you.
very fast too.
I keep coming back to this picture. That page that's behind you, what's that from?
Okay, so let me tell this in the most interesting but shortest way I possibly can. Okay, so there's probably about 5 to 10 artists I truly admire, at least visual artists. And one thing that I wanted to make sure I did was, try to get a piece of work from all of them. And I have most of them so far, and I can't afford like the great splash pages or anything like that, or the super duper pages, but I can afford what I can afford. And the one you see in the back behind me, that's actually a page from Pepe Larraz from the Avengers Empire issues that he did. And I love his work. One thing I love about his work is that he works entirely digitally, and as someone who's focusing now entirely digitally, it just happens to be sitting right here next to my art tablet. And I'll look at it, and every once in a while remember that there are certain things I can do that maybe I hadn't thought to do because he's kind of doing it. Right above that is a page that my kids got me from, I want to say it was New York Comic Con, of a double page spread from My Hero Academia. And it's just a print. It's not original art, but it's like one of my favorite pieces of art. And I have stuff from Bachelot, Humberto Ramos, and Oliver Coipel. Like those are the people that I look at, and they blow my mind with everything they do. And like I said, I can't afford the covers because, Joe Madureira is the one that I still haven't gotten anything from. And I see his work. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I'm sorry. I would love to, but I don't have $15,000 to spend on a, I would love to, believe me, I would love to. But, I really want that Battle Chasers double page spread. Right? Yeah. As much as I love
So is that the page? Is that original ink page or is that a digital page?
So what he does is he prints out, it's a print of a digital page. And what it has a like a stamp in it that certifies it as a one of a kind. So and that's a lot of people say, well, if you work digitally, you can't ever sell your art. And I would say that I can tell you, I don't think that's true because I'm looking at one right now. It comes with a certificate of authenticity. Yeah. It comes directly from his website. So I'm not getting it through eBay or something else. Could it be, reprinted? And yeah, I'm sure you could, fake it, but this came directly from him. It came with, like I said, a certificate of authenticity. If someone else owns it, I don't give a shit. Like, I love it. Like, I look at it. If someone else has it on their wall somewhere in America, hey, you know what? Whatever.
That's kind of like those plates. Those commemorative plates that they had. You get a certificate.
It's like the star registry. You register for a star, and you don't know that 200 other people have that exact same star.
Right.
What do you care? You got the stars. Got your name.
Exactly.
Well, let me ask you. You said something. You were talking about shape language and everything. Have you ever checked out Creature Box? I think it's
little bit,
Dave
yes.
210.
Yeah. I've looked at Creature Box. I've looked at a couple others. Unfortunately, I don't remember who it was, but there was a YouTube video that was only about 20 minutes long that was just a great tutorial on not just shape language, but like how it works. And they gave, examples, Johnny Bravo and Peter Griffin and Flair Flintstone and what those shape languages indicate and how shape language can contribute to the personality. And it was really, really interesting. But it was just something I wanted to kind of challenge myself into doing. And with the, Accidental Renegades, there's a couple things that I really wanted to kind of, take off the training wheels and try some interesting things. I have a page that has spiral panels because the character is doing something that, would make sense, and trying to figure out how to get that to look right and also to fit into the story is kind of a challenge. But I figured, you know what, like you said, I mean, you got to do it. You got to do it right.
Right. Yeah.
So how many gentlemen are you drawing in your book?
Okay, so right now I stopped at 27.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I capped it at 27. Now, fortunately, and the reason that I had this tier in the first place is because it starts off in a city, so it takes place in a city, which allows for a lot of logos and a lot of crowds. And then there's a cutaway scene where we meet kind of like the, a secondary character that plays in a little bit later. And that starts with like a big luxurious, like eyes wide shut type party. So there's enough crowd scenes that I can put people in. But it literally got to the point where, a lot of my friends are like, hey, he's gonna put us in the book. And I'm like, oh shit. Like I should probably be careful now because it's going to start to take away from the story.
Right.
Well, you just got to work that in, like I
Yeah.
said, the white guy prison scene. They're all,
Right,
all
right,
in prison. Just one whole page. There they are.
Yeah, if it's someone I don't like, I can make them doing something horrible, but I'll try not to do that.
There you go. But yeah, you do like they do in the zombie books. You put them in there, get their heads chopped off.
Yeah.
No, that's really funny.
Yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah.
So Jeff, are you on Long Island?
I am. Yeah.
Oh, you should look me up, Jeff.
Okay.
Yep, I'm on Long Island too. So
all right,
I'm over in Huntington.
I'm in Lindenhurst, so only like
look me up.
away. Okay, we'll do.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think you're really going to do well, and you know what? My question to you is: it's black and white, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's black and white, but there is a very small amount of color, and that kind of over time will set a theme. Each book has a different color theme, so that it works over time. So the first book is has the red theme.
Well, the interesting thing is you can experiment with the color. Okay. It doesn't,
a little bit, yeah.
It doesn't have to be you. Okay. There are a lot of there are renderers and then there are colorists. Okay. And sometimes you get a renderer who understands coloring.
Right.
Okay. Painting. Your book probably would really be cool either as abstract color, okay, where the color moves the story, or more like not super rendered, but more like a painterly looking book.
Right.
Painterly looking book would really be sharp.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, really would be sharp.
I don't know. I would just go full blown out manga on it and just cell shade, it.
Yeah.
Only because I mean it's a type of style I enjoy, so it's just one of those things.
Right.
Cell shading. All right, gentlemen. Mr. Michael, do you have a question? Were you the last one, or was I the last one? I don't even remember.
I want to say that I was the last one, but I wasn't. It was you. So I guess I do have to ask a question. So okay, so now we're starting to see people starting to do their. Oh, I know what I'm going to ask. Never mind. I got another one.
Nice.
So they say that we're not going into a recession per se, but if we were going into a recession, comics are supposed to come up. Entertainment doesn't really suffer. It perseveres. It's how can I put it? What did I hear about it? Yeah, they say basically that. Well, yeah, that's when comic books do well, is they're in recession periods and that. So,
they go from 20 cents to 25 cents to 30 cents to 35 cents to 40 cents.
Well, no, what I mean by is that supposedly it's a cheaper form of entertainment for people, and they actually do really well during a recession period, from what I hear. Mm-hmm. But let me ask, so if that's the case and we're going into recession, is crowdfunding going to be the place to find that cheaper entertainment?
No.
There you go. All right. Well, your turn, JD.
No. Let's start with Jeff. I'll answer. Before you. Go ahead, Jeff. Go for it.
I mean, I think crowdfunding would still be a place that you could find it, but I think you'd have to get a lot more, I guess, realistic with your goals. My goal for this first one was to basically be able to fund 100 books. If the economy tanks, then that 100 books may be 50, maybe 75, but something that's a little bit more manageable. People are still going to want entertainment, but I think what they're going to be looking for is the bar for the entertainment might be set a little bit higher. So what you might end up finding is that a lot of books don't make it in crowdfunding, not because necessarily of the economy, but because the economy is driving a higher quality of work that they just might not be meeting.
Nice.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maz, what do you got, Mr. Mark?
So if we are going into a recession, I personally think we really are. There's interesting models at work. Okay. When the pandemic first hit, AWA released, artists, writers, and artisans, AWA, they released their first row of books online free. Okay. So that you got that first bite, you got the bite of the story for free. Right. So that kind of drummed up some loyalty. to the work to get the next bite, as it were. And people love that first taste if it's good. If it's good and you're getting it free, wow, that makes you really want the next piece that much more. One of my favorite things to do is when I go to shows is I'll rummage through the dollar boxes or whatever and find something that I haven't seen before, and buy it. And if I get a book that I really enjoy for $1, it makes me want the rest of it. It's like I'm a shark. You put a little blood in the pool, and all of a sudden I'm ravenous. I think the same thing applies to entertainment, to comics going forward, especially as you hit a recession. That little taste in the beginning makes people want to come back for more. And I would definitely suggest to any of you guys that are doing it, you want to make your audience so loyal to you that they'll never go away. That's a great way to do it. Freebies are a great way to do that, but I wouldn't suggest giving away the farm. Just give them the first taste, put the chum in the water as it is, and see what happens.
Cool. Larry, what are your thoughts?
I can tell you this, that I can feel the crunch of the economy hurting. Like when I go into my Kickstarter and I look at people who have changed their pledge or canceled their pledge, we lost about $2,500, of just people who have changed their mind for whatever reason. Maybe they decide that it's a little bit too expensive for them right now, or they need to cut back a bit, or whatever it is, right? Buyer's remorse. I don't know. But we got 3 days left, and I can tell you that we lost about $2,500 just from people coming in and then bouncing out. And I got to tell you, that's probably a lot of it due to just the economy. I think running a crowdfunder right now is a tough game where gas is expensive, rent is expensive, food is expensive, And I think that's, where digital comes into play quite a bit, because it gives people an opportunity to still take part, but it doesn't break the wallet. Yep. When we do our covers, we always have our cover A, as our entry buy-in point. So again, it doesn't break the bank. You can buy an Niobe for $10 American and you're shipping, as opposed to maybe buying a high-end variant. So there's always ways to get in, and we just have to keep it affordable for people to get in somehow.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, for my part, the reason I said no in the beginning is because crowdfunding books are expensive. This is not the place you go to for like cheap entertainment. We are the luxury entertainment. When you're sitting back and you're paying $10 for a comic book, right? Because that's typically what we're paying, plus shipping. Sometimes it's $15, right? Plus shipping, right? We're well out of being the least expensive. We're somewhere in the road of being the most expensive. Mark had mentioned Eric July earlier. His book is $50. It's $35, $10 shipping plus tax.
Yeah,
so it's about
his book's a little different though, in the sense that his is more like a graphic novel. That's you're talking about like a 96-page book versus say my like 24-page floppy. Huge difference, I mean, it's $35 out of the gate plus your shipping for his book. When we did our trades, they were $25. Same size.
Mm-hmm. Right, but the thing is with the trade, when I do mine, they're $20-$25 plus about $5-$6 shipping in the U.S. So I mean, it's just that price. I felt it was a little too much for me to back it. Now, in 30 days, I may change my mind, because that's how I am. Because I am very interested. I want to buy the damn book and I want to see it. But at the moment, I'm like, okay, I have to step back from it, because there are other books, there are other people I want to back. You know what I mean? And I mean, in this case, I could either back his book, or I could buy Jeff's book, or I could get Niobe, right? In that instance, right? Yeah. So sometimes you got to make those choices as a buyer, So, but I don't think we're the least expensive option out there. Although digital is an option, and that's where on my campaigns, I have a $45 tier where it's all digital, but it's like my entire lineup. It's like 1,800 pages worth of work. You know, you'll be reading for friggin' months. You know, but
Well, I can tell you this in regards to digital. We have 349 backers. Over 100 of them are digital backers.
right.
It's almost a third. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My last campaign, I would say about 52% of my backers were digital. You know, and and like I said, I mean, I have a lot of $8 backers, right? And I'm like, God bless them. I just wish I had 1,000 more of them.
Right. Well, but that kind of helps out. That kind of helps you out though, because that prevents you from having to pay for shipping or anything unforeseeable, right?
Well, the thing about digital is that's one less book you got to print,
Right.
one less book that requires supplies, one less book that you got to put out in the mail. It's essentially free money.
Yes, I agree.
All you got to do is send out a link. You know what I mean? They can go download the book, easy peasy.
Yeah, I make the joke sometimes. Would I rather sell 1,000 physical books or 1,000 PDFs? I'd rather sell 1,000 PDFs.
1,000 PDFs, right? I can see that.
Exactly.
The interesting thing you mentioned, Eric July. I just bought his book today. Okay,
No, I remember.
And part of the reason I bought his book was I saw yet another video that he put out, and yeah, I do want to see the book. He's using a known artist that I really like, and I know can tell the story. So I'm curious, what his story is and what the book is about. But also, the video is about how PayPal just killed him with they're holding like all the funds from his campaign. Okay, so it's a $3.2 million campaign, and they're holding $1.2 million from him, and they'll give it to him like something like 60 plus days from now.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, that's not uncommon for PayPal.
That's money that he probably would have needed to print the books if he wasn't such a smart businessman. He already paid for everything up front. All the artists and all the creators are paid. Okay, the monies to print the books he already has. Okay, but PayPal could have ruined him and broke him. Okay, on a $3.2 million campaign, PayPal could have ruined him. I said, that's enough reason for me to want to back this guy. Just that he's together enough that he has, he figured all this stuff out before he ran his campaign. He was able to get enough backers, and I want to see the book. So
Well, he's going to be,
it's what made
pretty
me
hard. When
Say
that
again?
book comes out, that's going to be, on everyone's radar to sort of look at and review. And, for Eric July's part, I hope he knocks it out of the park, because if he doesn't, I don't know if he's going to replicate that same success again. You know what I mean? If the book comes out and it's a bad book, that may crush his entire, universe that he plans on building. I think the reason why a lot of people are buying this book, by the way, is for speculation. Okay. First appearance of a character, first book of a brand new series, giant series. I think, after that book comes out, you're going to see a lot of them on eBay. You're going to see a lot of them getting graded. You're going to see all the flip happening.
Yeah, that I'm sure that's a percentage of it. What I find interesting is that kind of money, as long as the concept is good, he can hire anybody he wants to do it after that. He doesn't even have to write it anymore. He can do an image thing. Oh, I'll hire James Robinson, and Warren Ellis, and I'll have all these guys. We'll hire Alan Moore, and that kind of money. I mean, that's insane. That's insane money. $3.2 million. That's insane.
Yep.
And
considering what is it Marvel's talking about? I read something ridiculous where they're looking to lower their rates to $50 or below $50 a page.
What for art?
No, I think it's for writing. I think it was for writing.
Is it for
writing? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was for writing. But even then, I think the art pages. I mean, who knows what they're paying?
Well, they just paid $100 for a cover. So I mean, it's not
Right.
surprising.
Not only for a cover, they paid $100 for a concept sketch that's going to be used as the design over and over and over again. So this person who drew that female Spider-Verse character got $100. Not only did they take that piece of art, which wasn't all that great, replicated it into a cover. Okay, didn't give her anything extra for that, but that design now is going to be potentially used in cartoons, TV shows, movies, and I doubt she gets anything extra for it.
Nope, it's $100.
$100. They're gonna stretch. Disney will stretch that sucker from here to the moon.
It's already stretched from here to the moon. Not
Exactly.
Right.
You know, but that's their deal. You know?
So I never got to ask a question yet.
Go ahead, go for it.
All right. So do you think the future of comics literally, like, and this is my opinion, that it is now in our hands in the sense of guys that are coming up through the rank? It's almost like wrestling, like backyard wrestlers who are trying to make it to the WWE. You know, we're the guys in the trenches coming up. You know, as I said earlier, we're starting to see crowdfunded books starting to come into these smaller press companies, starting to come into Diamond, starting to come on the shelves. Are we the next guard? You know, is Marvel and DC so dead in the water that the next evolution of comics, the next comic boom is guys like an Eric July, like a Brian Pulido? You know, I don't want to throw my name in the mix because I'm, you know, still pretty small, but guys like that are coming up, you know, that are producing alternatives. You know what I mean? Like, is it really like, you know, you have like the golden age of comics, you had the bronze age, the silver age. Is this the crowdfunded age?
Wow, that's a good question.
Yeah,
It is. Well, if you guys are the new wrestlers coming up, I'm the Undertaker.
Yeah, well, I never met you before, but obviously you come with a wealth of knowledge and history. You know, I'd like to talk to you some more at some point. You know what I mean? But
I'm around. You can get a hold of me. It's easy enough. No, I think what's interesting is when you see a company like Dynamite doing a whole bunch of crowdfunding books. Okay, they're not doing it just to test it. They know it works. Okay, Ethan Van Sciver is working with Dynamite. Okay, Dynamite's fulfilling a bunch of his orders and statues and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure that they had the conversation. They figured out how to make it work. Okay, and they're doing a bunch of books that would have been marginal. Okay. If they put it through comic shops, and they're making more money doing it through crowdfunding. So the answer to the question is obviously, if they can get it to work, yeah, it is the crowdfunded age of comics. Absolutely is. You know, what you guys are doing is the equivalent of like Kamiko or, you know, Aardvark Vanheim, except today. You know, you're doing that. You know, your Niobe book is the new Lady Death, if you would. Before it was Lady Death. So yeah, absolutely. It is the crowdfunded age. Crowdfunding, it fits in, I think, better with digital comics than, you know, print editions made and done digitally. I mean, here's Eric July coming by, and he's publishing a graphic novel. Okay, it's not floppies. It's not designed to work as a floppy. It's a graphic novel right out of the gate. So yeah, I think, you know, crowdfunding and digital fits better together.
you know, it's interesting you bring up Dynamite because they are doing a lot of crowdfunding, you know, both on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. You know, we had Tom Hutchinson in the chat from Big Dog Inc. here earlier. I don't know if he's still around, but he's actually going to be launching with Dynamite Bad Kitty, an old Chaos Comics property that they're bringing back because Dynamite has the rights to that character. And you know, the thing about Dynamite is they're in both spots. They're in shops and they're in crowdfunding, and of course they have probably their own online store and other avenues and da. You know, the wings certainly have been spreading.
Oh yeah. Jeff, any thoughts on that?
It's funny. I think we went from the Chromium age to the crowdfunding age.
Right.
And I don't know what happened in between. I don't even know what you call that. The digital age?
Who knows? The silver foil age.
Yeah, that's the Chromium, the Chromium bad variant age.
Jeff, you got any thoughts on it?
No, I mean, I guess kind of echo what everyone else has said. I mean, if this is the crowdfunding age, I think it's you know, it's definitely going to start to dilute, I think, the crowdfunding waters, right? If everyone's doing crowdfunding, it gets that much harder to set your stuff out in a sea of other crowdfunding. And I think that's where it becomes like super important, not only to have a good product, but to have a good tribe, for lack of a better word, you know, a good group of people that you can lean on, that you can work with, that can support you. I think it becomes important because once people know that this may be the only place that you can really make money, you're going to get more people trying to do it. It's kind of like, you know, SoundCloud rappers, you know, everyone you want to talk to in high school, you know, has got a SoundCloud, you know, hey, check out my SoundCloud. But that doesn't mean that half of them are any good. You know, I teach high school. I've got some students, and I'm not going to name names because you never know if they're going to hear this, but they've got SoundClouds that are hot garbage, you know, and I'm like, hey man, you know, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. But I'm like, it's not good. It's just not. You rhyme cat with that for 15 minutes, man. You rhyme cat, fat, and that. You can't. That's not. You're not Kanye. But it's because that's where, you know, that's the hot thing right now. My concern is if, you know, the mainstream comics take a backseat to more crowdfunded options, then you're going to see just a dilution of the talent pool. And I think it's going to be a little bit harder for small people, you know, especially ones starting out, to kind of make themselves known. And that's something that even now, as a first-time crowdfunder, you know, a guy that's been around a little bit, you know, I've got some organization, I've got, you know, some maturity just based on my age, but I'm a small fish in a big pond, right? So it's harder to kind of make yourself known. If you make that pond that much bigger and you throw a lot more fish in, I think you're going to find a lot of challenges for some of the young, up-and-coming independent creators to make themselves known, because there's going to be so many people out there.
Yeah, it's the old, you know, how can you get the, I don't want to use the word exposure, but how do you get the media to recognize what the hell you're doing? You know,
right,
exposure,
exactly.
Exposure makes it sound like you're doing it for free, you know, like, oh, look at here. Yeah, I'm throwing my CDs around to the people on the street corner, you know, that's not going to help you.
What are your thoughts, Mr. Lanning?
I really like to plead the fifth on this one. I really would. But let me say it like this. I think there's too many avenues open right now to just consider one as being the next thing. Let me put it to you that way. Because we can look at the 40-year-old and older guys that were there when Image was there. We can look at when Image came up, the Bad Girl comics and stuff like that, and the 40-year-old guys getting the variant covers. But you also have to look at the 30-year-olds and the 20-year-olds and the teens and where they're going. It's not just going to be one. It can't be one thing. It can't be, crowdfunding comics is going to be the thing. No. It's going to be
we know
varied.
where they're going, though. They've been going to manga. That's where they've been going.
But it's not just manga either. It's not just manga. There's other avenues as well. And that's what I'm saying. It's not just one. So it's not going to be like it was, where it was just Marvel, DC, Dynamite, Valiant, and all that. It's going to be different angles where they get their entertainment. And it's real. And what it's come down to is, it's been said before, those who make the most noise or makes the best product, or the cream rises to the top, are the ones that are going to get it, no matter where they're at.
Yeah,
no matter where they're at.
I got to interject with your comment with Marvel, DC, and Valiant.
Valiant's almost dead.
Whatever, but that's my point.
No, I mean they're literally bankrupt. They're not paying their.
I'm not talking about now, though.
Yeah,
I'm talking about your 80s and your 90s, and that's where. Okay, I'm 42. 42 years old, and I remember when those were your featured
40
books and
young, sir.
Whatever. Anyway, I'm
only 29, man, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But those were your ones that were featured in the Wizard magazine, and I'm sure y'all remember other magazines before Wizard, like, I don't know, Prehistoric. Anyway, whatever the case is, my point being is, where it was one thing where you had to be the mainstream publisher and you had, getting to those stores are not a factor anymore, unfortunately. And there's going to be different avenues to reach that knowability, and it's not going to just be crowdfunding, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I hear exactly what Michael is saying, because it's funny, like thinking, like, I've been around for a minute. Elementals, Bill Willingham, right? Back in the day, Kamiko, right? That first issue sold 80,000 copies, right? We're doing now, if you would have distilled down that number in today's numbers, he would probably walk away with like $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 profit, on it, right? But you see crowdfunders, right, selling 2,000 books, 3,000 books, or 3,000 backers, right, and they're making $100,000, right? Now, granted, you know, if you distill it down, they're probably walking away with $20,000-$30,000 profit because you got to, you know, whatever overhead they have and, you know, whatever, right? But it's like we're doing micro printing, right? They're micro runs in comparison. Yeah. And the thing that has me concerned is, like, you know, who's going to be able to find our work, you know, 30, 40 years from now, right? Because there's a lot of work being put out, a lot of work, right? And I find that fascinating. It's really interesting, you know, but it's like we have entire runs of books that if you have a couple of thousand copies out there in the world, you know, that's all you got, you know? And even though this person may have raised like a couple 100,000, you know, whereas you got runs like Bill Willingham's run on the Elementals, he has probably several million copies out there.
Yeah.
And the Elementals is forgotten almost, right? So it's like, where are we sitting? What are we doing to change that? You know, I mean, how are we going to change that? How are we going to keep the work alive and out there?
I kind of think that's where the digital end comes in, because, you know, it can always be purchased, viewed digitally. Right. Just because you don't have the physical book in your hand doesn't mean that you can't read it. Okay. The same way you know, try and find a copy of Fantastic Four #1 that you could afford to read. Oh, so well, yeah, there's reprints and there's digital, you know. Yeah. But I mean, the weird thing, you bring something up. The weird thing is, because we're all printing books, okay? Right. You know, we all probably go to shows and sell the books. Up until about maybe 4 years ago, I was still selling a lot of my books for cover price, okay? Ones that I had already published. And let me tell you something, huge mistake. Okay. I did one show, I raised the price of my books. Okay. Literally, you know, I know people saying, oh, you know, you got to discount them, get them, you know, get rid of them. Like, no, I raised the price of my books and they sold better. Okay?
I've heard that kind of thing. Yeah.
Second time, and they sold better. Okay. So from me to you, okay, from all you guys just out there, do not do like a fire sale of the old books, because they have such value. And there aren't, you know, if you print 800 of them, okay, those are the first edition. They're of huge value. So you take them with you to shows, just put a higher price tag on it and see what happens. Because a lot of the people that are out at the shows, they're half of the reason why they're interested is because it's a collector's item. Okay. And yes, they do read them. They do read them, but they want the collector's item. So don't undervalue them. Don't undervalue what you've been doing. Let it snowball. Let it snowball and get better for you, instead of like, you know, oh, I got a fire sale, you know, these books. You know, that is so wrong. It is, you know, the inventory. Okay. The inventory is an amazing thing. Keep the inventory. And, you know, the first book I put out, you know, I sell it for $30 now at cons, you know, just simply because, well, you know, what the hell, why not? You know, and they asked me why. Oh, you know, I got 10 of them left. Okay. Well, yeah, they're worth $30. They're probably worth more than that. So from me to you, yeah, you know, what value are they, you know, going forward? You could buy it digitally for the cover, or you could, you know, get the original. And, you know, you pay the premium collector's price. You know, you bag it and make sure it's pristine for them, and they're happy and you're happy.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I've been, I had a fan contact me, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. He wanted me to sign some books for him. And it was some of the adult books that I had done back in the day. It was like Blue Girl, Girls of Terra X, some of this stuff. And I was like, okay, sure, fine, why not? And he was asking me, do you have any copies? I was like, yeah, I'm sure I got some around. He says, the prices on those books are really high. He says, La Blue Girl, no matter what issue you come across, they're selling between anywhere from $35 to $60 to $70 a pop.
Oh, I'm
right?
sure. Then if you sign them, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, I see one guy was selling for like almost $600, and I was like, with a certificate, I was like, what the hell are you doing? You know, I was like,
Did you get a premium for your signature?
no, I don't ever charge. I just gave it to him. But the thing is though, is I had sold off to a retailer about 5 years ago my back stock to all of my Girls of Terror X. These books are selling for, like I said, $35 and $50 a pop now.
Yeah.
And I sold them all off for 50 cents each. I had already made my money on them. I'm well into the green, into the black on this stuff. And I'm just like, whatever, man. That's just gravy. Get rid of this stuff.
No, the reason I bring it up is there's a very good precedent for it, and maybe you guys know it, maybe you don't. There used to be a company called Warren Publishing, and the Warren magazines were all they were all black and white. They were all like 60 pages, 80 pages. They were magazine size, and what he had was in the back of the magazines, he would sell the previous issues.
Right.
Okay. And, they got up to like 100 issues of creepy and eerie.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those issues that he was selling out of the magazines, he got cover or a premium on them. And this is in like the 70s into the 80s. And I got a chance to actually talk to the publisher. All of those issues were the issues that were returned from the newsstands.
Oh,
so
nice.
instead of them being garbage, he was making money off of it. He was making good money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, if it worked for him, it'll work for me. Okay, don't sell the stuff dirt cheap. Put a premium on them. Okay, keep them in good condition, and sell them. Yeah. And it seems to have worked very well. So.
He's right. Look, people underestimate the collector's market quite a bit. I see a lot of debates with a lot of creators talking about readership versus people who buy for covers or collections. Okay. The fact of the matter is this, that Niobe, people were selling our Paul Green covers on eBay for $150, So I started my own eBay and started putting up some of my own books there to make some extra money. You're going to put up that for 150. Okay, cool. But I'll outflip Flipper, and I'll put one up for 80. And I guarantee you, I got more stock than they do. Okay. Now, the other, part, the reason why I'm showing this picture is, as far as getting out there and keeping things alive and growing and all that stuff, again, every book that you see here in this photograph, and this was just sent to me yesterday, are all crowdfunded books that were bought at the comic shop.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so there's Niobe at the top, there's Death Rage, there's Miss Me Out, and Exciting Comics here. That's an anthology series from AP, but what's on the cover is from Molly Schofield, who does the Minx books and a few others. She does a lot of cyberpunk sort of genre books, right? Her stories are in there, which is how we got our start. The thing is like when you look back at things like The Walking Dead or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, okay, when those books came out, and both of them were black and white, by the way, have very low print runs for the first issue. You know what I mean? 3,600 copies, something like that, right? Well, hell, Niobe sold 2,500 copies. We come out again, maybe the next time we come out in the store, maybe we do 4,000. Maybe we do 6,000 next time. You know what I mean? Maybe it grows, but in order to get out there, you have to have like sort of a couple of different avenues, right? Yes, I think it is the crowdfunding era for sure. When you look at guys like Van Sciver, Polito, and Eric July, even Keanu Reeves with Boom Studios that did Berserker, that did $1 million, they've already had publishing. They were already in stores, but they still came out and did the crowdfunder. Why? Because it was extra money. That's why. And a lot of it, you know what I mean? But at the same time, if you come out and you do this and you get in stores, and for the people that can't afford that luxury buy that you spoke of, you know what I mean? Paying $20 for a comic book and $15 shipping, they can go to their local store and pick up a book for $4.99, Who knows what that leads into, right? Because now we're also looking at a time where there's lots of streaming services, okay? Netflix used to have the monopoly on Marvel, and guess what happened? Disney showed up and took that all away. They took Star Wars away, they took Marvel away, they took a bunch of stuff away, okay? So now we have things like Battle Nun, Warrior Nun, from Ben Dunn, as a Netflix series now. You know, we gotten lots of different shows that people, you know, Lucifer. My mother loves the show Lucifer. She never knew it started off as a comic book. You know what I mean? Who knows what's going to happen? But you have to have something that's cool. You know, there's lots of people out there doing comics, and there's only so many top spots out there. You know, it's like in wrestling. There's only so many, you know, main event people on the card. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So your stuff has to stand out. That's it.
True. All right, gentlemen, we made it to 2 hours. We made it to the 2 hour mark and beyond. So, you know, it's time to wrap it up. So thank you so much for being here. All you guys are awesome. Jeff, let's start with you. Please let everybody know where they can find you and your work, sir.
Okay, I think the key to remember is just Zed Comics Original. It's Zed Comics Original on Instagram, Zed Comics Original on Facebook, zcomicsoriginal.com is my website, and zcomicsoriginal@gmail.com is my email. On Twitter, I'm at the letter Z Comics Original, but as long as you remember Zed Comics Original, that's kind of my brand. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and website with that. Appreciate being on here. This has been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff. Mr. Mark.
Yeah, so I'm glad I finally made it onto the show. Thanks for the patience. I appreciate that, guys. So you can find me at atlasunleashed.com. That's the comics publishing venue. I interview creators regularly. Haven't done it for a while, but I want to get back into doing a bunch more interviews. That's comicscreatornews.com. So it's comics with an S, creatornews.com. All those just stay up there for posperity's sake. There's going to be like 45 interviews up there. Maybe you find somebody that's interesting you want to read. And do not have a Facebook page. Do not have an Instagram. Working on all that stuff. I mean, it's just not my bag. I guess I'm old, you know. Anyway, that's where you can find me, guys.
You're not that old, Mark. Come on.
No, I'm pretty ancient.
Well, how old are you?
Oh, I'm getting there.
29. He said earlier. He said he's 29.
Look, I'll be 54 in November. So there you go.
Oh, I'm ancient. No, I'm ancient. I got you beat.
Really? By what? 4 years? 5 years?
I'm ancient.
All right. All right. Mr. Larry, where can I find you your work, sir?
You know, if you type in Niobe Comic, you're pretty much going to find me, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I mean, those are the sort of the four major things. I just encourage everyone to go out and, you know, see if you can find Niobe out in the wild and pick it up, give it a shot. And if you like it, maybe come over to one of our crowdfunders sometime. And JD, you know, I want to say thank you for having me on the show. I've been crowdfunding almost a month now, and you're the only person that has invited me on other than me running my own stuff. You know what I mean? So I appreciate it, bro.
No, listen, man, like I say, I got an open door policy. You're a friend of the show. I've been on your show. Your show is fantastic. And I'll tell everybody, Larry is a great host, and it's a great friggin' show. You know, so I mean,
because I'm going live in about half hour after this. So
gotcha. All right, nice. There you go. So yeah. I mean, thank you, man. I mean, like I said, anytime. You know, you're always welcome.
Appreciate that, brother.
Mr. Lanning.
Hey, as always, you can check out my linktree/C Michael Lanning. It's got all my Facebook, Twitter, blah blah blah, so on and so forth, and of course, the show Dispatches from Outside the Box on Tuesdays at 8 Eastern.
All right, cool. Well, my name's JD Calderon. You can find me here most Sundays. I'll be here next Sunday. And you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, DeviantArt, you know, all under JD Calderon, the OswaldChronicles.com, TallTalesOnline.com. And there will I'm fulfilling a current Kickstarter currently, and there will be a fresh new one probably in 3 weeks to a month. There'll be another one up because, you know, I just can't help myself. All right.
You're addicted. Yep.
Exactly. So that's where I get my dopamine hits. Thank you, everybody. You guys are all great. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll be talking to you all soon. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, guys.